Well, we're here tonight with Christians. Just think about this. All over the world, believers tonight are gathering to remember the passion of Jesus. This is an amazing night. All Christian churches, have traditions where, like we celebrate once a month the Eucharist. We come together and remember Jesus' death. But there's this one night that we're all together, that we have solidarity. We're all remembering what he paid for us and the horrible suffering he willingly endured to save us. His sacrifice tells us so much about the costliness of our sin debt and the value that God places on us, how much we matter to him. This is how much he wants a relationship with us. That's the staggering part of this. Jesus said, I want you to do this regularly. I want you to come together, and I want you to remember and reflect, and let this move you. Let this challenge you. Let this change you. Now, let's just think about the time frame of Jesus' death. To be condemned to death by the Romans was a terrible fate. They had perfected the art of killing by actually experimenting with different techniques to find the cruelest, cheapest, quickest, most painful, morbid ways to die imaginable. Strangling, stoning, beheading, boiling in oil, molten lead down the throat. Thrown to wild animals in arenas, burning alive. But the ultimate penalty, the one they liked the most, was crucifixion. It was neither quick or efficient. It required the work of 4 soldiers with a centurion to oversee them. It took hours, sometimes days. Cost way more money. But the Romans used it a lot because it was extremely effective. There was nothing more painful or humiliating. They placed a crossbeam on a guy's back and parade him through town, led by a soldier with a sign stating his crime. And since there was no cable news or, internet to broadcast the event, they'd take the longest, most crowded route possible. And people would run to the street to see what was happening, what was going on. Many would follow all the way to the execution site, taunting the dying person as he stumbled along. The Romans knew how to create spectacle, to attract and entertain so they could deliver their ultimate message, which was rebel against Rome, and you too will hang on a cross naked. But there was a vast difference between what Jesus went through and the 2 thieves that hung by his side. He was experiencing a form of spiritual suffering that I don't think we can even dimly imagine. The internal torture of Jesus' soul made his physical death, the pain that he was suffering physically, almost inconsequential. The Bible says Jesus had never experienced guilt. He had never encountered shame, even for a moment. There was never a tinge of regret, only complete innocence his entire life. 2 Corinthians 5:21 says he, God, made him who knew no sin to be sin for us. That actually happened on the cross. Think about the darkest thing you've ever done. We all have something, and if we could flash it up here on the screens for everybody to see, can you imagine how horrifying, how humiliating, painful that would be? Maybe you betrayed a marriage vow. Maybe you went through an abortion. Maybe you got caught lying at work, or you betrayed a friendship, destroyed it. Maybe it's a habit that you would be so ashamed if anybody knew. Think about the pain, the regret that you have experienced because of sin, and how many times you've thought, if I could just erase that, if I could just make that go away as if it never happened. Now imagine experiencing the weight of that sin and countless others you've committed. Some your conscience is too dull to even remember or notice. And add to it the guilt, the pain, the shame, the regret, the soul devastation of every sin ever committed by every human who's ever lived. Every act of physical abuse, every murder from Cain killing Abel right to today, into the future, every seduction, every betrayal, every deception, every act of hate throughout all time, every mean and spiteful word, every greed-driven business deal, every sacrifice of integrity, every shabby lie. And add to it all the atrocities committed in Nazi death camps and Russian gulags. the genocide over thousands of years that obliterated millions upon millions of people. Now, the barbarism of ISIS. Imagine feeling the horror, the despair of all that sin in one heart. And then try to imagine experiencing the judgment, the anger of a holy, righteous God against it all. And all that awfulness is directed solely at you. And think about this. Jesus had never known anything but perfect harmony with the Father till that moment. He had never experienced separation, but on the cross he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Look at some of the other words for forsaken: abandoned, ditched, discarded, deserted, rejected, disowned. You know, some of us may have experienced estrangement or feeling distant from God for a season where, you know, the hand of his favor sort of lifted or wasn't very evident in our lives. But none of us, not one of us, has ever been totally forsaken by him. Even if you've done your best to defy him, he still wakes you up every morning and gives you breath. What Jesus experienced on the cross is something we can barely imagine. He suffered complete spiritual darkness, utter abandonment, hopelessness. And it was all for us. It was all for us. The physical suffering was enormous, but it didn't compare to this. Galatians 3:13 says, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law. Look at this. By becoming a curse for us. He experienced supernatural guilt and shame that was so intense, he sweat blood the night before it happened, dreading what was coming. And it was also you and I could experience supernatural healing and forgiveness, so we could know oneness with God, so that our slate could be washed clean. C.S. Lewis uses a clever allegory in his book, The Great Divorce, describing how many of us try to handle God's forgiveness. And if you forgot what an allegory is, like I did in your English lit class days, you know, it's a story where the characters and events are symbols of ideas the author is wanting to illustrate. So the man in the story is symbolized here as a ghost, and his sins have made him spiritually lifeless, a mere shadow of a man. And in the scene that I'm going to read, he is walking along with his pet sin of lust that's pictured as a lizard. So he's a ghost. He's walking along with his pet lizard sin of lust. We'd put porn in there nowadays. And he comes to some mountains that represent heaven. But he quickly decides he can't go in because his pet lizard won't be welcome in God's presence. So he just turns to leave, and as he does, an angel appears, and this is where I'll pick up reading. The angel says, "Are you off so soon?" The angel's radiant with light. "Yes, I'm off," said the ghost. It's no good, you see. I told this little chap here, and he indicated the lizard, he'd have to be quiet if he came, which he insisted on doing. Of course, his stuff won't do here. I realize that, but he won't stop. I shall just have to go home. "Would you like me to make him quiet?" asked the angel. "Of course I would," said the ghost. "Then I will kill it," said the angel. Oh, look out, you're burning me. "Keep away," said the ghost, retreating. "Do you want him killed?" You didn't say anything about killing him at first. I didn't mean to bother you about anything so drastic as that. "It's the only way," said the angel, whose burning hands were now very close to the lizard. "Shall I kill him?" I'm open to consider it," said the ghost, "but for the moment, I was only thinking about silencing it because, well, up here it's so embarrassing." "May I kill it?" "Well, there's time to discuss that later." "There is no time. May I kill it?" Please, I never meant to be a nuisance. No, don't bother. Look, it's gone to sleep of its own accord. I'm sure it'll be no problem now." "May I kill it?" honestly, I don't think there's the slightest necessity of that. I'll be able to keep it in order now. I think the gradual process would be far better than killing it. The gradual process is of no use at all. Well, I'll think over what you said carefully. Honestly, I will. I'd let you kill it now, but I'm not feeling real strong today, and it would be silly to do it now. I need to be in better health some other day. There is no other day. All days are present now. May I kill it. Go back. You're burning me. How can I tell you to kill it? You'd kill me if you did. It is not so. You're hurting me now. I didn't say it wouldn't hurt you. I said it wouldn't kill you. Why are you torturing me? If you wanted to help me, why didn't you kill the thing without asking me before I knew? It would all be over by now if you had. I cannot kill it against your will. It is impossible. May I kill it. The angel's hands were almost closed around the lizard, but not quite. The lizard began chattering to the ghost. Be careful, it said. He can do what he says. He can kill me. One fatal word, and he will. Then you will be without me forever and ever. Now remember, this is his little porn addiction. This is his little lust problem speaking, this lizard. It's not natural, I tell you. How could you live? You'd only be a sort of a ghost, not a real man like you are now. He doesn't understand. He's only a cold, abstract thing. Might be natural for him, but it isn't for us. Yes, I know there are no real pleasures now, only dreams, but aren't they better than nothing? And I'll be good. I admit I've gone too far sometimes in the past, but I promise I won't do it again. May I kill it? Asked the angel. I know it will kill me. It won't, but suppose it did. You're right. It would better to be dead than to live with this creature. Then I may. Blast you, go on. Can't you get it over? Do what you like, bellowed the ghost, but ended whimpering, God help me, God help me. In the next moment, the ghost gave a scream of agony. The burning one closed his crimson grip on the reptile, twisted it while it bit and writhed, and flung it broken back on the turf. And the ghost cries out, sure, he's going to die. But he doesn't die. In fact, this amazing thing happens. He's transformed into a man. I'm sure there are some of us here tonight who have come with our pet lizard, right? That sin we've been tolerating, we've been putting up with. Maybe for you it's a little porn addiction, a little lust. Maybe it's pride, anger, resentment, greed, substance abuse, food addiction, whatever. Will you say, God, whatever it takes, however much this hurts, I want you to kill this thing before it kills me? This is distancing me from you. This is turning me into a ghost. This is keeping me from experiencing life. I want this thing out of my life. I want to experience what Jesus purchased on the cross for me. I want the power of your Spirit. I want the forgiveness that he purchased in my life. I want to feel clean again. I want to walk away from here tonight knowing that the slate is clean, that my heart is pure. I just have a sense there are a lot of us here needing to get rid of our lizards, needing to get rid of our little pets. Say yes to God. We're about to remember the tremendous price Jesus paid to make that possible. And I'm telling you, in the interaction with these elements, you can make that transaction tonight. You can say, I want this out of my life, Lord. You paid too dear a price. You want a relationship with me, and this is messing that up. I want this gone. I'm asking you to begin tonight to kill this thing, to deliver me from this thing that I have tolerated